What we do is that we produce copper by processing tailings. Tailings are the end product of a mining process. In our case, we have access to the tailings of Codelco's El Teniente mine, which is the largest underground copper mine in the world.
Hello to viewers tuning in to Assay TV. In this edition, we're catching up with Amerigo Resources, who have had a transformational year driven by strong copper prices and operational excellence. And I'm catching up with Aurora Davidson, who is the President, CEO, and Director of the company. Aurora, it's great to be speaking with you today.
Thank you, Adam. We're happy to be here, and we're happy to tell our story to people that may be new to Amerigo.
Yes, well, Amerigo is not your typical copper company, if you will. Could you just tell the viewers what differentiates your business model from other copper producers?
Sure, that's a great question to start our discussion, Adam. We are not a mining company that is producing from an ore body. We're not extracting mineral in that way. What we do is that we produce copper by processing tailings. Tailings are the end product of a mining process. In our case, we have access to the tailings of Codelco's El Teniente mine, which is the largest underground copper mine in the world. So we have the rights to their day-by-day production. Those are called fresh tailings. And we also have the rights to tailings that were deposited by El Teniente from 1935 to 1986. Those are called historical tailings. So essentially, we are in the middle of the mining industry by virtue of being a copper producer, but we don't carry exploration risk. We don't have to be doing significant investment to guarantee a resource, because our resource equivalent is that contract with El Teniente that runs to 2037 that gives us access to these materials. We have been doing this through an operation in Chile called MVC. MVC has been producing copper for 29 years now, uninterruptedly. That makes us a historical copper producer. We don't carry exploration risk. We don't carry a lot of the risk profiles associated with traditional mining. And we have a low sustaining CapEx requirement in our operation. So I think those are key differentiators. You could perhaps come out of these questions thinking that we're more of a copper factory than a traditional mining producer.
Excellent. Great rundown. I've just a technical question, if we can delve into it, if you don't mind, around the sort of the split between the historic tailings and then also the fresh tailings. And it's great that you've got, both the historic tailings to work with as well. But are there any sort of qualities, grade difference between the two? Historically, maybe techniques weren't quite as sophisticated in order to extract enough ore from the earth that was mined.
Yeah, that's correct, and you're right on. Historical tailings are current production tailings. They have a lower grade by definition because of two things. First of all, mines right now have lower grades per se than they had 50, 40, 30 years ago, but they're also more efficient, or aiming to be more efficient. Right. So the grade that we get from the fresh tailings is lower than the grade that we get from historical tailings. Having said that, historical tailings are depletable. You only have a certain amount, while and the fresh tailings it's a stream of tailings coming our way on a constant way. So the benefit for us is to be able to mix those two. And if we know that the fresh tailings are coming in with higher volume, with higher grade, we prioritize that.
Yep, excellent. Okay, switching to company financials now, because there were some more recent developments there that I'd like to focus on. And you've made some waves really by announcing material share buyback and also a quarterly dividend policy. What was the impetus behind this?
Sure. Let me give you a little bit of background. Amerigo is a company that does extremely well under a robust copper price environment. We're very levered to the price of copper. So on one hand, we've had a copper price that has been phenomenally well behaved, let's put it that way, this year. From January to September, the average copper price has been $4.17 per pound, which is really, really strong. It can be stronger, and we think it will be stronger, but for all intents and purposes, working with the 417 copper price is a great place for any copper producer. On the other hand, we have achieved very stable operations. We are producing what we said we were going to be producing, so that creates a lot of operational stability. When you put the two together, in our case, you suddenly have a very strong support in terms of financial results. Just to give you an example, for the first 6 months of the year, we're recording this interview on October the 7th. So for the first 6 months of the year, we produced net income at Amerigo of $23 million US, EBITDA of $47 million US in 6 months. Our earnings per share were 12 cents per share US, which is 16 cents per share Canadian. So that's significant. That allowed us to have a very robust balance sheet and to have additional financial flexibility. With those elements put together, plus a very positive outlook on copper and a positive outlook as well on our operations going forward, the board of directors has determined that it's time to put out a payout policy. And we've done it on two pillars. The first one is a share buyback. So we essentially have a substantial issuer bid in place. Some people call it, or know it better, as a Dutch auction. That auction is running until November 17, and it's for up to 25 million Canadian, 20 million US, which, you know, if it fully runs its course, it could lead us to retire in an orderly way up to 11% of the company's issued and outstanding shares. Which, you know, for some investors that may feel they have completed their investment cycle with Amerigo for whatever reason, and that provides an orderly way of realizing their investment. The other aspect of the payout policy is a dividend. Amerigo has been a dividend payer in the past. Amerigo paid north of $47 million between 2005 and 2008, and then between 2011 and 2012 to shareholders. So now we've come out with an announcement. We're reinstating the dividend as of this quarter, as of the fourth quarter of 2021. We're going to be paying a quarterly dividend. And then the question is, well, how much are you going to be paying for your dividend? That will be at the discretion of the board of directors. It will be determined on a quarterly basis, based on, obviously, the financial results of the preceding quarter, the market outlook, and taking into consideration the company's working capital requirements. And we're very excited about this. It's very unusual for a mining company to have a substantial issuer bid. And it's also unusual for a company to announce a payout policy that is based on two streams of return of capital to its shareholders.
Yes, absolutely. It's great news. Okay, so moving on to some of the environmental aspects around your operation, always a big focus when we talk about copper mining and production. You don't carry the risks associated with conventional mining companies or exploration, as you mentioned, but do you see your expertise in the process of tailings playing a larger role in the global mining ecosystem? And if you do, you know, how big an opportunity is this for the company?
Well, absolutely. I think that we're in a very interesting point in time where, on one hand, you have, in terms of and let's talk copper, because that's what we do. We do copper tailings. You have an environment where ore grades are lower in the new projects. You also have a substantially short list of new projects coming online. the industry hasn't been investing for more than a decade in getting this pipeline going. So you will be seeing, and you're starting to see that already, constraints on the supply side. But on the other hand, demand for copper will be driven up by this greening, this decarbonization that everybody is focused on. So that will lead us to an imbalance between what we need and what we can give in terms of copper. And then that makes you start looking at tailings with a different eye. There is still copper in tailings, and copper can be recovered from tailings. So where does the expertise that Amerigo come and play fit into this picture? I think it will be very important for the company. We have the technical knowledge of how to operate with copper tailings. We've been doing it for 29 years. We've been doing it successfully through low parts of the copper cycle, and obviously benefiting tremendously on the upswing of the cycle. So I think that we're just starting to see how this expertise and this proven business experience can fit very well into the tailings reclamation or circularization of that asset that every mining company has, and how we can participate into that. I think that the business model that we have with El Teniente is a business model that can be replicated with other major mining companies with copper deposits.
Yeah. Just on the environmental impacts, I've noted that your operation is 100% powered by renewable energy, which is great for a mining company or a company in the mining space, not often heard of. Firstly, could you tell us, what is the renewable energy source? How you got there in terms of achieving this, and then also how does this impact the cost structure of the company as well?
Yeah. I think it's an interesting story. We're very proud of it. You're right. We are essentially a company that is 100% powered by renewable energy in Chile. Starting last year, we just received our first annual certificate for 2020 that basically says MVC's full energy in the year came from renewable sources. How did this come into play? It came into play by Amerigo wanting to secure a power supply on a long-term basis with known costs. And why did we do this? Because power is fundamental to us. We do not exist without having guaranteed power at MVC, and power is our single most significant cost. Right. Power represents 30% of our production costs when you exclude depreciation. So having certainty of supply and certainty of cost on a long-term basis was fundamental to bring that stability to our financial model at MVC. When we approached our power supplier to basically look at this framework of long-term supply into MVC, they were quite interested in starting to put out and to roll out and to do it with an operation our size, a contract that would include the supply of fully renewable energy. So we're one of the pioneers in Chile. Chile has an aggressive, ambitious, let's call it, it's a better word, ambitious policy to become more reliant on renewable sources. Right now, they are at a target of 47% of supply coming from renewable sources, and we're at 100%. So we're leading the way in Chile, and we're leading the way for a lot of mining companies in having achieved that.
That's excellent. Yeah. Okay, so are there any other catalysts on the horizon for you? Any key milestones investors should look out for before the end of the year?
Absolutely. Well, we will be reporting production results in the middle of October. After that, we'll be announcing our quarterly financial results for Q3 and the quantum of the dividend. We're also going to be completing our share buyback program by November 17, and we'll be closing the year with very robust operational results. We will have we will be meeting our production guidance. We've been working hard to do that. The people at MVC have been phenomenal in ensuring that we have continuity of operations under COVID. And so we're closing a very strong transformational year for Amerigo. We're in a position now to start sharing back that the fruits of that effort with the shareholders. So we are very confident of having a strong close and of the prospects that we have going forward for Amerigo.
Excellent stuff. Thank you, Aurora. Well, it's very compelling to have had the business model explained and to hear the recent financing news and positive news around the dividend. We look forward to keeping in touch around developments there. And thanks for sharing your time with Assay TV.
Absolutely. Thank you for the conversation. Happy to do that.